Mime, the purest form of movement, a study of shape and space. We're going to take a look at an artist who practices that art form on Artbeat. Today, I'm Irene.
And I'm Kevin. And we'll also visit with two artists who perform a craft that we sometimes tend to overlook. Nicholas will take a lesson in floral arrangements, and I will venture into the world of papermaking.
And then, of course, we'll have our regular showstopper, the Rock Showcase with Kevin. And this week he's featuring a band called Hell's Dagger. Sounds lovely, Kevin. I think I'll step out for that one.
No, why don't you?
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Omnibus and Mummenschanz, two names you might be familiar with. They're both mime companies which have achieved international fame. Now, Dominique is going to tell us about another side of that art form, the pantomime. Dominique?
Well, Irene, riding trains, chasing robbers, or parachuting within 36 square feet in 6 minutes causes no problems for Jean. He's a mime artist, a relatively new breed of Montreal street performer. Jean's unique approach to mime combines sound effects with gestures and expressions. He'll lead us into all kinds of situations without ever leaving Place Jacques-Cartier in Old Montreal. Now tell me, how many times have you actually shared a mime's secrets? Keep your eyes open. Try to pick up a few tricks. Here's Jean. Montreal is yet to capture Paris's title as mime capital of the world, with its Marcel Marceaus and street imitators. Still, performers such as Jean are gradually taking their act to the streets and cafes. That's where they create out of nothing and without any restrictions. Jean, how and when did you start doing mime? Okay. No, seriously, when did you start?
Well, I started like almost 6 years ago. You're in Cégep, you're playing around, and you're doing funny jokes, and suddenly you try to put on makeup, and it works well. So that's the way I started. You do a good show, you do another one, and friends like it. Friends come and see you. That's it.
So did you ever take courses or?
I never took classes for that. It was just natural, and I decided to, well, just go into it and do the best I could. I'm more into comic things, okay? So I concentrate on funny jokes, on funny situations in life, compared to Mr. Marceau, who's doing some dramatized things. different from the approach you take, depending on the influence you've had before, you know. Mr. Marceau is doing full mime, called pantomime, which is like you dress, you have a white face just like mine, but you strictly do mime. There's no sound effect except background music sometimes. Compared to me, where I use sound effects made by my voice, you know, and it adds a little proportion, you know, like you can concentrate more. You can show that you're eating an apple. You can show it just like that, but if you add an effect, it goes, it's better sometimes. People like it a lot. So I always try to associate sound effect with mine. I consider myself just a comic person with a white face, not really a mime or a pantomime. These are different.
Does it take anything special to be a mime? Are there requirements, physical requirements?
Well, first of all, you got to be in shape because it's really strenuous, you know. Sometimes you're like an hour and a half on stage. You do a good show, and you got to be in shape to get the most out of it. Secondly, well, your perception of everything around you should be just a little different. You know, you see things that people don't see, and you hear things that people don't hear. And it's important to try to get all the ideas from the outside world.
Why does everyone love a mime?
I think when you just approach people the way you dress and with your makeup on, they're not scared. They like that, you know. You can do anything to almost anything, and they'll laugh.
For amateur mimes awaiting a lucky breakthrough, the streets of Montreal offer an ideal stage. They're not only a great place to perfect this rigorous discipline, but also a privileged setting to initiate new audiences. I guess that last trick is probably the easiest one to start with. My only advice to you is stay away from policemen and bodybuilders. I hope you've enjoyed this mime show. I really appreciate his originality and flair.
I see you took the opportunity to get into show business, eh, Dominique?
Well, there's always a first time.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Now we get a segment on something I love, flowers. I just don't get enough of them, unfortunately. Nicholas.
Well, Irene, one of the most successful yet unrecognized artists of modern times is the floral artist. Now just think about it. You send flowers on Mother's Day, a birthday, or even a graduation. Well, whatever the occasion may be, people will always find a good excuse to send flowers. Yet however beautiful a single rose may be, if you place 12 of them together, you only have a bunch of flowers. But if you take those flowers and trust them in the hands of a floral artist, then be prepared to experience the excitement as you see the emergence of a work of art. A rose, some lilies, baby's breath, and ferns are just some of the tools of the floral artist. These florists take flowers from their natural environment and with them create fantastic pieces of art. But where did these artists learn their trade? With a little research, we discovered that there were several schools in Montreal which taught these skills. We visited with one of these schools, l'École Nationale de Floristerie, which has been in existence for over 20 years and is situated at 9634 La Jeunesse. This is an advanced class in floral arrangement being taught by Sonia Hay. The students prefer working with artificial flowers as it leaves them with a more permanent arrangement, one which sometimes the students even sell. However, working with artificial flowers also has its disadvantages. Each flower must be bent into shape by the student to give his arrangement a realistic appearance. Throughout the class, Sonia gives the students advice, always reminding them that their arrangements must have symmetric movement.
Ça fait moi je préférais que tu travailles en masse, tout en bleu pâle ici, puis tout en foncé ici, ou alors vice versa. Ce serait quand même plus joli.
Sonia herself is a very talented floral artist. On display around the class are several exhibits of arrangements she has created. Unlike the first class we went to, Sonia's Ikebana class begins with a lecture and a word of warning that anything the students may have previously learned in other classes should be completely forgotten. She invited me to attend this class, and of course I accepted, feeling rather confident of my artistic talents. Once Sonia completed the theory behind the Japanese style of floral arrangement, we began to put the theory into practice. The rest of the class went straight to work, while I struggled with my floralane, which is a florist's tape used to overlap unsightly wire stemming. Then Sonia's assistant took pity on me and helped me prepare a vase for my arrangement. I got the hang of it after that, though, and I didn't do too badly for a first-time student. Did I? Looking around at the 22 students in the class, I began to wonder what brought these people here. Some were here just for the fun, but there were others who had serious dreams of one day owning their own florist shop. The school and its directors are very supportive in realizing their students' dreams. Over the past 20 years, they have participated in opening over 350 flower boutiques. This is a unique little florist shop called La Floristerie. It's owned and operated by two former students of l'École Nationale de Floristerie, and in fact they purchased it from their teacher, Sonia Hay, just 3 years ago. Let's give a look inside. Paul Seguin and Jacques Gadoury are the two owners of this shop, and they truly pride themselves on placing top quality work and materials into all of their arrangements. I had the pleasure of speaking with Jacques about his work. Now, Jacques, one of the uniquenesses of your shop is your philosophy in arranging flowers. Apparently you arrange flowers to music.
You know, the music is an art, and the art is a feeling you receive and you give. When you create, you give a feeling that you have received first. Right. If you bring me a piece of music, I can do an arrangement with this music, starting with this music, and by listening to this music, I will receive the feeling you like.
Right.
I can't say what feeling you like, but I can feel them.
Right. Jacques continued to explain the importance of being original in designing each of his arrangements. Jacques, your florist boutique is considered as being unique in some of the styles of your arrangements. Can you tell us some of the things that make it unique, some of your arrangements?
Just look at what I'm working on, you know. You see the flower, they are different than what you see in some In other boutique, there is some other boutique who add those flowers, but not all, you know. We try to have all the kind of flower. Maybe they are just a little flower. I work sometime with flower I take in the field.
Although the tools for this art remain the same, the end product always varies.
Keep on going, go, 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 go.
What, for example, are the numerous possibilities of this single rose? Well, we seem to have turned our studio into a florist shop. Well, it's not as if you can spend one night at l'École Nationale des Fleuristes and exit an artist, but perhaps what you might exit with is a keen understanding of what it takes to harness the powers of earth, man, and sky, and turn it into a tangible work of art. Irene, my work of art to you.
Oh, Nicholas, I think you need to go back and take more classes.
I think so too.
I'll enjoy my flowers while you enjoy the rock showcase.
Welcome once again to the Rock Showcase. Today we're going to take a look at the band Hell's Dagger. Not too close a look, I hope. I mean, these guys are mean. We're talking heavy metal. Now, as they'll tell you, they come from Montreal, but that does not explain where they got the dagger, and I was not about to ask either. So let's take a look at Hell's Dagger.
We're Hell's Dagger, we come from Montreal. Here's a song from Hell's Dagger called...
Well, me and Danny, the bass player, just met together. We thought about getting a hot band, heavy metal band together. We just asked for a guitar player and a drummer, and that's it.
Where did you get the name Hell's Dagger?
Well, we get it from a quotation from William Blake's Visions of the Last Judgment. It talks about humanity finding things to destroy itself. He says that it's a dagger from hell.
Who writes the material in the songs?
Usually it's getting from the two guitar players, and then we work on it together, you know, four of us.
What are your goals with Hell's Dagger?
We want to make it big. Like every band, we have the organization for it, we have the guts. We're on, we're ready, and I think we'll make it definitely.
I think you will too. Thanks for being with us, guys.
Thank you.
Hell's Dagger.
See what I mean by mean? That would be some tag team wrestling match, Kiss versus Hell's Dagger. Well, it's time to say goodbye to our rock showcase once again, but do not despair because there's plenty more of Artbeat coming up right after this.
Hi, welcome back. We're going to take a look at something with a little bit of a softer edge now. Kevin, you're going from Hell's Dagger to papermaking.
That's right. Now, if you take a look around your room right now, I'm sure there'll be plenty of paper in sight. Tilia Hellfield is one person who actually turns the paper into a piece of art. She's one of the few people left who will go through the painstaking process of fabricating paper. In each paper, the form may vary to any type of art at any point. It may vary in texture to another point where it may vary in colors. And as you'll see, it may even be the shape or form of the paper. Now, we went and we asked Tilia just what it was that interested her in paper making.
I've been a printmaker for about 14 years, and I've always been interested in the paper that I printed on. And after investigating a lot of different types of paper, I got into making my own as a support for my prints. And then gradually I began to make paper for its own sake, as an art medium in itself.
Do you use just scrap paper or do you use other products?
I do a lot of recycling. It's a very ecological medium, paper making. It brings out the thrifty housewife in me because you can use leftover cat fur, lint from the dryer, vegetable peelings, potatoes and carrots make marvelous paper. Or just used writing paper makes beautiful paper. I have a sheet here made out of recycled gift wrapping paper. It's very colorful and very, very beautiful.
What problems have you encountered in regard to papermaking being considered a viable art?
It's very difficult. Papermaking is a very new process. It's only been in existence for about 20 years. Began in the early 60s in the States. So that when you go with a piece of handmade paper art to a recognized fine art gallery, they think it's craft. If you go to a craft gallery, they say it's not jewelry, it's not glass, must be fine art. If you take your paper sculptures to a sculpture gallery, it's not marble and it's not stone. So you're neither fish nor fowl. But I'm finding that there's more and more acceptance of paper art as a fine art today. And I'm sure that this will continue.
How do you approach a project?
I always have an idea in mind. But the materials I use usually dictate the direction in which I go. The most important thing to me is to work with the material and allow the material to speak to me. When I'm working on the vacuum table, I let things happen. You know, Duchamp, in his great works of art, always allowed chance to take over. He once made something, put it under glass, and it accidentally broke, and he allowed dust to gather and all kinds of things to happen to it naturally. And I think it's very important for an artist to begin with an idea, but then to let circumstances take over and add to the art and give something back to the art.
Papermaking begins with the fiber. In this case, abaca linters are being beaten in water-filled hydropulper. Prior to this stage, the abacas were cut into small pieces, beaten and boiled. Once thoroughly blended, the pulp is poured into a sink with warm water. A quick swirl, and then with the paper mold, the pulp is fished out of the sink and given a papermaker shake, which locks the fibers together. The decal is removed and the pulp water allowed to drain. The pulp is then cooched onto the vacuum table. Here, a bottom layer and vine branches have already been placed, with the top layer now being laid in order for the eventual paper structure to be realized. Another form is shown here with couching being done without the mold and decal. The screen is just used so that the pulp can be molded to the three-dimensional doll's head. The entire table is then covered with 2 plastic sheets and the vacuum pump turned on, which sucks the water down from the pulp into the tank below. Once dry, the finished doll's face is joined to the pre-finished drawing and then mounted and framed. When newly formed, the paper sheet is let to dry naturally. When dry enough to move without damage, but damp enough to mold, it is then rolled up in tissue paper, tied up, and let to dry in the set position. This particular paper pillar structure stands approximately 20 inches high. Hellfeld has made them anywhere from 6 inches to 6 feet high. Maybe now you can see how papermaking can become an art form, and a very attractive one at that. Miss Tilia Hellfield takes great pride and care in her work, and the results are quite evident.
She really had some really interesting pieces there.
Yeah, they're quite attractive.
Are you going to be back next week with another great group?
Well, I presume I'll be back with the Rock Showcase, if that's what you mean.
Okay, so join us next week. We'll be back with a new group of artists for you on Artbeat. Until then, for everybody here, I'm Irene. Have a good day. Dance,
music,
art,
and more today on Artbeat. I'm Kevin, and I'll bring you the Montreal band Beau Geste in our weekly rock showcase.
We'll also take a stroll down St. Catherine Street, up a stairwell, and into a studio of Les Ballets Jazz with Dominque. And then Stephanie's going to take us into yet another studio where we'll find out just how to make it in the music industry.
And as if 2 studios aren't enough, we'll also visit Les Foufounes Électriques, which is often frequented by painters and musicians alike and can be classified as a studio gallery. And Caroline will tell us all about that.
A show you can't afford to miss, right?
Right.
So stay with us and we'll be right back after this. Jazz ballet, we've all become very familiar with it, and I think Les Ballets Jazz of Montreal have been very influential there. Dominique?
Yes, Irene, I heard floors were burning up at 1231 St. Catherine Street. Why? Because of the high energy levels bursting from Les Ballets Jazz headquarters. The place houses a public dance school for all dance styles, a pre-professional program, and a dance company, perhaps Montreal's slickest dancing machine. Thanks to this triple vocation, Les Ballets Jazz trains its own professionals. In the following segment, we'll take a look at all aspects from this dance institution. You'll also get a chance to see a lot of fresh movement. The Montreal studios for Les Ballets Jazz are located at 1231 St. Catherine Street. The second-story headquarters include 5 spacious studios that accommodate both the school and the touring company of professional dancers. Since being founded in 1972 by Madame Geneviève Salbin, the school has expanded to form sister schools in Laval, Quebec City, and Toronto. Each school is a non-profit organization supported by fees paid in dance classes and also with private donations. The school also offers a professional training program in which a qualifying student may receive a scholarship to complete his or her dance training. Growing numbers of dancing enthusiasts are tutored in jazz, aerobics, ballet, tap, and repertoire. They bring to life the fantasies created in famous dance movies. We talked with Christophe Donovan, who is a former dancer with the professional company and is now teaching classes. When we think of Les Ballets Jazz, we think of jazz. Is it the only style that is
No, well,
done here,
it first started out that way. But now there's much more demand on all forms of art, and competition is fierce. So we have now available at the school breakdancing, let's say. So we teach breakdancing now. There's a big demand, and everybody wants a piece of the cake. And it's good business, it's good for the school, and we have good teachers. So we don't feel we're just doing it because it's a fad. It's something that's really serious and it's done well. We always have, we've had for the past few years also tap dance. And off and on we've had modern. We have modern again, but at a professional level. Because there's a lot of other schools now who specialize in the modern. So everybody still has their specialty. And the ballet jazz is ballet jazz. Yeah.
Is this school open to the public, or do we think in terms of professionalism?
Yeah, there's a big confusion the part of some people, because they think Les Ballets Jazz, the dance company, they forget Les Ballets Jazz, the school. And the school is open to everybody, okay? People think, well, I don't want to become a professional, so I won't go to Les Ballets Jazz, which is totally false. We have night classes that are specifically for the general public. just for them.
Various levels, or is that?
Yeah, we have from beginners to advanced. Even the advanced people, they're just doing it for the fun of it. Some have been doing it for 8 years, 9 years, and instead of jogging every morning, they do their dance class every day. The basic age we start training people, well, teaching them dance is 15, 16, okay? Now a lot of them show promise. Either they had ballet training elsewhere since they've been 8 years old. They come here, they want to diversify their training, so they start doing jazz. And suddenly they discover that they're good enough after a year or two, and the teacher tells them, well, maybe you should audition for the professional training program that the school offers, which trains people to become professional dancers.
The professional dancers at Les Ballets Jazz have dance classes in the morning for conditioning and discipline in movements. They stop for a 2-hour lunch break and return for dance practice in the afternoon. The schedule is maintained 5 days a week, as in any other full-time job. The company tours internationally and has always received favorable reviews, notably for their dynamic and natural style. This was Les Ballets Jazz, a visual and musical feast. They make you want to sing, clap, dance, and why not make your own bid for fame?
They certainly want to make me dance. How come you weren't up there doing it, Dominique?
Don't ask me.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Want to be a rock star? Stephanie has all the ingredients. Stephanie.
Well, Irene, you've got your electric guitar and your pair of leather jeans, and you want to be a rock and roll star. Well, it might interest you to know that most of the major record companies have offices here in the city. But before you proceed to flood their offices with demo tapes, here's some information that may come in handy. We spoke with 2 experts in the field, Nino Calavecchio and Rob Braid, and asked them about the chances for young talent here in Montreal, as well as that important question, how did he get that first big break?
Sweet dreams are made of these.
Rob Braid comments on the live music scene in Montreal.
Thriving for a change. It's been a long time that Montreal has been beleaguered by the disco situation. I remember back in 1977, live music in Montreal started to fall apart when a lot of the bars yanked out the stages and put in dance floors with jukeboxes, and the live scene in Montreal really crumbled at that point. Fortunately, right now there seems to be a very strong undercurrent of modern rock, beat-oriented music, which is happening out of Montreal. Bands like Orange People and No Policy, groups that are playing in places like Cargo and Beat, wherever kind of small groups of people are gathering. It's very the scene seems to be much more enthusiastic now. There's a lot more interest. There's a vibrancy of the Montreal music scene again, and I haven't seen it in years.
Alleged apathy towards local talent is examined by Nino Colavecchio.
I believe that the apathy towards local talent in Montreal specifically is overstated. If you consider the amount of bands and the amount of artists that are presenting their talent to record companies, and the percentage of those that is actually signed to a recording contract, it is very small everywhere. We tend to overstate the Montreal aspect because we live it every day.
No, I wouldn't do otherwise. I have my difficulties with the CRTC from time to time, as most broadcasters do, but one of the areas that I'm very supportive of is the Canadian talent quota. On my AM radio station, CKGM, we're expected to play 30%, on the FM Shome 20%. In actual fact, we play more than 20% on Shome. There's just such an incredible amount of good Canadian music, and that's not just greasing the industry, I really believe that. Witnessed by the acceptance of bands like Loverboy, Bryan Adams, Aldo Nova, Corey Hart in the United States and indeed around the world. I wouldn't change anything as regards the 20% rule. It's done very, very good things for the Canadian business. In fact, we have an industry now which we didn't have 10 years ago. There was a certain negative backlash at first when the regulation was first introduced in the late 60s, I think it was. And what happened is a lot of bands were being put on vinyl just because they were Canadian and radio needed something to play. In the early days, there was a real backlash. It was real garbage getting on vinyl. Now we have a very sophisticated industry. I mean, you know, David Bowie's up north recording at Morin Heights, and we've got a recording industry and music producers and writers, composers, that kind of thing. And it seems to be thriving, and I think it's directly as a result of the 20% Canadian content.
If you're a starving young musician and your dream is to become a rock and roll star, take this very professional advice. Other than
Get themselves a day job, which could be an advice.
Yeah, sell vacuum cleaners. That's a tough one.
It's important that they package themselves properly. It is important that rather than just go in their garage and suddenly decide that they are new music and they can do it, because a lot of the new music is produced on it, you know, the instruments are they're complicated electronically, but you know, anybody can do it. It so appears. Doing it right is a different story. It is easy to produce a sound that everybody else is doing and just change a few words, and that's what makes you part of that group that should get a day job. You know, but if you want to be the kind of the group that gets signed to a recording contract, then you've got to be original. You've got to do something that is different. If you want to present yourself to a record company, get yourself a proper manager. You know, get a producer interested in your work. Record companies have a better, you know, relationships with individual producers, and it is always easier to listen to a producer in whom you have a certain confidence than to listen to somebody who, you know, if we were to listen to every single piece of material that we get, we'd be doing nothing but. So there's got to be a sort of a pre-screening, and that pre-screening has to be done by who presents it. Get yourself a good manager, get a producer interested in your work, then come and see the record company.
If you're good, and if you believe you're good, go for it. There are talent competitions. Shome has one, the L'Esprit album. Some of the other stations in town do talent competitions as well. Those are good, but particularly if you're into the modern rock, if that's your métier, there are a lot of great clubs around Montreal right now where you can hang and meet other musicians. There are musicians' referral systems getting together, and you can contact the radio station, give us a call, let you know who to speak to. Advice, keep the nose to the grindstone. It's a lot more encouraging than it was even 2-3 years ago. And don't be afraid to stick your neck out. You've got to be aggressive to get ahead in the business. And that's what you've got to do in any business. The record business isn't that different. Have faith in yourself if you believe you're good.
Just take those old records on the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old timer rock and roll. Don't try to take me to a disco. You'll never even get me out on the floor.
Rock and roll may be a vicious game, but the emergence and success of new Canadian bands is paving the way for our local talent. Things are looking up in Montreal, so don't give up on your dreams.
I'm ready, pointing in the right direction.
Let's go.
Right. Well, stay with us because we're going to take a look at somebody who's on their way to make it in the Rock Showcase.
Hi, and welcome once again to the Rock Showcase. Today's featured band is the band Beau Geste. Now, although they're relatively new, they've already recorded on the CBS record label, and their first 5 singles have gone to the top of the Palmera radioactive charts. They've also made 3 rock videos, which have been aired on all the Quebec local stations, TV stations that is. So let's listen to Beau Geste.
Beau Geste have a very firm following here in Montreal, having recorded a very successful French album. Their latest project has been a recording of an English LP, and today my special guests are Nick Bergino, the lead vocalist and bass player, and Brian Hughes, lead guitarist. Why did you choose Beau Geste as a title?
Well, we chose Beau Geste because we wanted a name that would give some kind of indication that the place we came from was a francophone place.
What are you trying to accomplish with your latest LP?
What we're trying to do with the album, musically, is we're trying to reach a whole wide range of people. We're trying to get the hard rockers and the radio stations. So basically, we're trying to have commercial heavy metal.
What sort of problems do musicians have when they ignore the English market in Montreal?
The problems are that you're limiting your audience. I don't think we ignored the English market. It's just that when you play French rock and roll, it's harder for English people to understand what you're talking about or exactly what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do. But you're just limiting your market.
Will Beau Geste still be here in 1989?
Oh, without a doubt. Definitely. Well, we might be older. We'll have a few wrinkles and more makeup, and our hair will be thinner, but
yeah, we'll be here.
There you have it, Beau Geste, an exciting group who are making their move real fast. Now stick around because there's more Artbeat coming up after this, and this is the end of our Rock Showcase for this week.
Welcome back. With me now is Caroline. Caroline?
Les Foufounes Électriques is definitely not your average club, and that's exactly what's guaranteed its success in this city. Before it opened a few years ago, there were a lot of Montrealers, especially artists, who wanted a place to go where they could listen to new music and get into something a little more exciting than ladies' night. So Les Foufounes brought in alternative bands and became a forum for struggling artists to exhibit and sell their works. But rather than just becoming some sort of a gallery, they decided they'd draw a bigger crowd by staging live painting shows. We visited the club on one of those nights just before the artists and Les Foufounes staff were about to show off their live approach in New York City.
Among all the discos and bars in Montreal, there's one club with a different flavor, Les Foufounes Électriques. Located on St. Catherine Street, this club offers a variety of activities that will tickle the fancy of even the most jaded clubgoer. One of the most popular is le 3x4 en direct, or the live painting show. Among a crowded room of onlookers, the artists rush to complete their paintings within the 1-hour time limit. At the end of the show, these paintings are auctioned off to the highest bidder. Claude Lamarche is an artist of a different sort. His technique involves a mixture of photography and painting.
Claude, this is not the first time you've done this, right?
No, this is the 6th time now.
And why do you keep coming back?
Oh, because I like the action, I like the mood of when the public is there and work in front of the public. I like that. Instead of just working alone in my studio.
So you prefer to work with an audience?
It's not necessary that I prefer it, but I like to show what I'm doing and what kind of experience I have and what I can do with my technique.
Do you find it at all difficult to create something in just an hour, or do you find that's just enough time for you?
It depends on the ideas, but I think it's an hour and a half, maybe better sometimes.
So do you ever have something that's not quite finished by the time the time runs out?
Sometimes it happens, very often sometimes.
Darcel will be among the artists here tonight. She studied fine arts at Dawson College and Concordia University, as well as spending 4 years in Paris working with another artist. I asked her how she felt about painting with an audience in the room.
Yeah, something hard. After, it's different, but just as hard.
Do you find it's also nervous to work with other artists and know you're sort of...
Not at all. It's to think about it ahead of time and to be prepared in a certain way, you know. But it's still you still don't know what will happen. That's why you're so nervous about it. But I don't know. You're nervous maybe 2 days before doing it.
When you come here, do you already have an idea in your head of what you're going to want to do?
I do.
Don't they decide on a theme when you come here, though?
They've done that a few times here, but this time it's not like that. Tonight it won't be that.
So you choose your own. What do you like to work with?
Acrylics, and I do collage, montage sometimes.
C'est un merveilleux symbole de ce qui se passe dans ma tête. Alors, c'est parti, mesdames et messieurs. Est-ce que j'ai 5 $? J'ai 5 $. J'ai 5 $ une fois, 5 $, deux, j'ai 10, j'ai 15, j'ai 20, 25 $. 25, 30 $. 30 $ une fois, 30, 35, 40, 45. 45, 50. 50 $ une fois, 55. 55, 60. 60, 65. 65 une fois, 65, 70. 70 une fois, 75. 75 une fois, 75. 80, 80, 85. 85 une fois, 90. 90 une fois, 92 une fois, 93 fois. 95, 100, 105. 105 $, 110 $. 110 $, une fois, 115 $. 115 $, une fois, 115 $. Deux fois, 115 $. Trois fois, 120 $. 125 $. 125 $, une fois, 125 $. Deux fois, 125 $. Trois fois, 125 $. Trois fois, 130 $. 135. 135 $, une fois, 135 $. Deux fois, 135 $. Trois fois, 135. 140. 140 $, une fois, 140 $. Deux fois, 140 $. 145. 145 une fois, 145. Deux fois, 145. Trois fois, 145. Trois fois. Vendu.
As you probably noticed, the Big Apple was the theme in just about everybody's mind that evening. Usually the artists pocket whatever they can get for their creations, but that evening all the proceeds went to get all the artists to New York. Sometimes paintings go for as little as $5 or $10, but others have gone for over $500, and that buys an awful lot of canvas, gouache, or at least pays the rent.
It certainly does. Thanks, Caroline. Well, that's our show for this week, and of course I'll be back next week with Kevin and more co-hosts, so join us then. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.